Hey, Patreons. I was reminded yesterday by Alicia that I said in my last message to patrons that I was going to write a Patreon update at the end of every month in 2019. And now it's the second month of 2019. And that's shitty. I don't want to do that. I actually just had forgotten that I had said that. I kind of had it in my head that monthly things would start at the end of this project, but that's not what I said. 2019. So I'm going to do two in February, and then we'll continue from there. So this is the first one. This is a late January post, and I have a few things I want to do today. The first thing here is a toy review. So there's some new things going on. There's and then if you make him upset, it's pretty jarring. That's one guy. So I'm a silly putty junkie because otherwise I'll bite my nails even lower than they already are. Sorry to show you that. It's gruesome. But I like this. This is efficient. I can just kind of get like a big wad, I want to be able to as I'm doing my thing, kind of be able to if I'm brainstorming, I'm always either doing one or the other, so this is good. I'm not a mentally normal person. Third thing is I've gotten very into metal cubes. I don't know how it started. I think probably an Instagram ad. It's where most of what I have now starts at. So this isn't actually that cool because you can't see it. You can't hold it, but this is aluminum, solid aluminum, and it feels like it's hollow. It's incredibly light, 2.7 grams per cubic centimeter, I think. Tungsten, same size, cubic inch. It is 7 times heavier, so it's cool. You can get these on Amazon. From the Tungsten Midwestern service. They're not cheap, but they're worth it. They're really worth it. And here's an 1.5 inch cubed. This is when my wife got upset finally and was like, that's just about enough of buying expensive cubes. But so we have these as well. And the aluminum one gets scratched because it's too soft, soft metal, and tungsten's hard metal, so it still looks like it's new. So I'm realizing as I'm talking here that this is much cooler for people that can hold it. It's kind of a party trick I've had to pull these out. You can't hold them, so this is a bit of a boring part of the update. Now, the next thing I want to do is a bridge. It's the end of the toy discussion, but it also is the overlap. It's the beginning of what I want to talk about after. The post, there's a draft. We have a draft. It clocks in at a cool, crisp 140,000 words. So remember the Tesla post? This is almost 6 times longer than that. It's almost 50% longer than the entire Elon Musk series. If you include the Neuralink post, in the Elon Musk series, it's still longer than all of those posts. So I'm going to be working through it right now, putting drawings in. There's hundreds of drawings and shortening it. There's certain things that are redundant now that I'm done have been kind of explained multiple times, and there's also there's always the question I'm asking when I'm going through to do drawings is, can this paragraph, can this idea that I've written be replaced with visuals? Because I like visuals more, and I think a lot of readers do too. Just like a wall of text is less fun than one that's interspersed with a lot of visuals. So trying to replace text with visuals, cut some stuff, get rid of some redundancies, and getting there. Now the post has kind of, I would say, one overarching point, but it's made up of there's so I'm trying to think of if you read the Cook Chef post, which is the 4th post in the Elon series, there's one big point there, right? There's one big comparison about 2 ways to reason. But there's a lot of concepts inside that post. There's a lot of different terms and kind of other things like that. This is like that, but way more. There's so many different like, each eighth or tenth of the post is kind of its own world of ideas and concepts, and they all kind of build together into one big story. So what I want to start doing in these updates is giving like little sneak previews of some of these concepts and just talking, explaining some of the things that are in there. And I did one a little while back. I think it was a long while back, but it was on the ladder, the how you think ladder. So that's still a big part of the post. And so I'm going to do some more of that now. So this is a toy. This is a toy that I think also could have been an Instagram ad. It's hard to know. And let's just show you here how this works here. So here it's like a bell curve toy that if you look here, there's 3,000 tiny metal spheres in here. And if you go like this, they fall. Now, each individual ball, it really is doing its own thing. It can go in any direction that it wants. If you watch any individual, you just had one ball in there, it would be this betting game. Where is it going to land? It could go and land in any of these slots anytime. Let me hold it this way, it's a little clearer. But when you do 3,000 of them, well, you did one, it could go in any of these slots, but it would have a probability that's higher in the middle, and it would work its way out, and the probability would get lower. If you had 20 of these, it would probably, you'd see them bunched up kind of towards the middle more often, right? When they all fell. But once you get to 3,000, you start to see something bigger here. This forms a pretty smooth curve. Now, it's not, perfect, some gaps there. See that? And, it's not totally round around the top, but it's pretty good. And watch, we do it again. Now I got to hold it. I'm going to put it down because you want it to be level. See? Pretty good, right? So if you look, as always, I've never seen like one of these slots empty. There's always just a few end up in these very low, probably, 2% of chance each ball is going to fall there. And yet, when you have 3,000, some of them are going to fall here. And so, again, smooth curve. I've done this lots of times, more times than I should admit. Although it is one of those things that I played with it for an hour and a half, like without stopping, and then I haven't picked it up very much since. But so you can just keep doing this, and you'll see it always forms a bell curve. Now, 3,000 is why it's still a little rough. If these balls were smaller, or if it were just a bigger machine and there were 30,000 or 300,000, it would start to be, you zoomed out to the same level, it would be, it would just be almost entirely smooth. So, this got me thinking. I think each one of these balls is like a human. And studying why the balls bounce the way that, why an individual ball bounces the way it does, or why individual balls tend to behave the way they do, that's like psychology. The curve they make, the shape they make together, the shape that their cumulative psychology forms in aggregate, that's sociology. At least that's how I'm thinking about it. So this is a post about both psychology and sociology. And I don't think you really can discuss one without, well, you can discuss psychology on its own, sure. But you can't really discuss sociology, the study of societies, understanding why large groups of people behave the way they do, without understanding the underlying psychology. So in this post, I do a lot of zoom outs in other posts. There's a lot of, this concept comes up again and again. You need to zoom out to see the whole thing. Maybe we zoom out in history and we go all the way back to the Big Bang to like look at the whole story. Maybe we, if you wanted to understand, sometimes I use this analogy, if you wanted to understand how a coastline work, but you were just standing on the beach looking around, you can't do that. You need to go up in a helicopter, maybe an airplane. And the higher you go, the more you can see the really big picture going on. But then the less you can examine what that big picture is made of. So I like to zoom in and out. I think you need to kind of have that flexibility to explore a lot of complex topics. So this post is all about zooming in and out, but there's a different axis that we haven't really used before. It's an axis of emergence. So emergence is this concept of many of one thing together forming something that's bigger than the sum of its parts, or that is different than the sum of its parts. So a bunch of atoms that have no life or anything, they're just this little physics machine, they together form a cell. A cell is this complex living thing. A bunch of cells form a human, which can do all kinds of higher thinking that no cell could do. And we all kind of know about that, but we often stop there. And we don't realize that we're not at the top of the emergence scale. We're in the middle of it. So a bunch of humans, we are all a bunch of cells in larger organisms. Whether it's a community or an entire nation, or the biggest human organism is the whole species. It's one system. And each community, each country is a smaller subsystem, and each of us is a cell in a smaller subsystem, just like each of our cells is part of a community of tissue, a cell community, which we would call a tissue, and then some larger and larger, and eventually you have the whole organism. You have organ systems and all of this. So I think that it's very similar, and I'm not just saying it because it's like sounds cool. It's like a nice metaphor. No, I really think that it's actually an organism. Like I think that if you look at a society, you realize, and I kind of stumbled upon this while writing this, that I had written a bunch about our psychology. We have two characters, like sometimes the posts do. There's two new characters here. And dug into that. And I've done a lot of writing about psychology with the procrastination post, with the mammoth post, with the cook and the chef post. This is this is a topic I like. And it's all, it's usually the same idea going on. There's this primitive mind, there's this higher mind. And the two of them are at odds, and that's the source of most of our problems and most of our insanity. But then I'm digging deep into sociology for this post. I'm trying to understand why the U.S. society is the way it is right now, and just what patterns is it currently falling into that if we zoom out we can see. And as I did that, I kind of started to realize this is like a fractal situation where it's like a human is just it's a complete unit, and the society is the same unit, just bigger. And so each of the cells is the mini version of the big unit. And the society does function like a big organism in so many ways. So there's a million different parts of this that I'm going to get into in depth in the post. But the idea is the zooming out that we're doing here is on iterations of emergence. So we spend some time on the individual level, getting into psychology. We spend some time in small groups in this post, talking about how small groups work together, like a dinner table. Not a wait-wide dinner table, an actual dinner table. How larger groups and neighborhoods, communities, and eventually big political parties or religions, and then nations, and then the whole global West or the global East, or different other parts of the world, and then the whole species. So this is a spectrum, and this is the zooming we're doing in this post, and we bounce around. And so I think I'm going to have some kind of cool little meter that we can see where we are about to be. In the next section, we can see where are we zooming in now on the emergence scale or out. So that is the idea. This thing I got and I was just playing with, and it kind of hit me. I was like, right, okay. And so, and I'll talk about this in the next video a little bit more maybe, but what you got to think about, if you want to understand why society is the way it is, you have to think about, well, what are the properties of this curve? What are the probabilities? What are the settings in a certain society that are leading it to form a particular shape. And a lot of the time we get really mad at individuals in society or groups, but I think you need to zoom out and say, if you don't like what a group's doing, well, what shape are they forming? What's the bell curve that's happening there? And if you can understand what that bell curve is, you can really understand what the properties are that led to it. Why is that the shape? Then you can start to understand how maybe we can change that. Maybe we can get that, either part of society or the entire society, to form a different shape, a shape that is more optimal for the future, for the present, for all different kinds of people inside the society. How do we get the society's bell curve to be the shape we want? And I think a lot of the time we blame the individual balls in here. And we don't understand that this is just an inherent kind of person or kind of behavior that is going to happen a certain probability of the time in the society, and yelling at each one of these balls or getting really angry at it or blaming it is often not really productive. And it's not the point, because you can yell at that one, but the probability setting for this slot is still what it is. So if you want fewer people acting the way that people in this slot are acting, this is about the big picture. How can you change the probability of the whole slot? So this is a lot of the thinking I've been doing. And I didn't want to be really long, and I'm not going to be. I'm going to stop in a second. But I just, to complete this thought a little bit, I think that the way I'm thinking about human behavior, and this goes all the way back to ancient humans, all the way to today, and presumably into the future, which is why this is really important to understand. I think of humans as players on a game board. So not just humans, by the way. Every single species in the world is a player, and the environment around them is the game board. And evolution is just the process of players, of the filtering of the players that happen to be the best at this game. And the ones that aren't great at the game, they're out. And so you end up with species that are really good at this game. So so I think of I think of behavior of a species of any kind, including humans, as just the output that is produced by two inputs: the wiring of the player and the game board. Those two will produce behavior. Behavior is the dependent variable on those two independent variables. So evolution over long periods of time tweaks the player. This is why species optimize to their environment. But the other thing that happens is sometimes something more rapidly or slowly, but sometimes rapidly, the game board changes. Suddenly, all the players that were best at the old game aren't that great at this game anymore, and these players that weren't so good are better, and suddenly evolution starts favoring different players. Now, if you look at us in human societies, well, we live we're in an environment too, and our behavior, I think human behavior, is going to be largely a product of the way we are wired, which isn't changing very much because it takes a long time. So that's almost a constant for us. But the other input is the game board itself. And that actually, not only can we change it, but culture makes it we have this superpower. We can actually just alter the game board in a way that no other animal's ever been able to. So the U.S., the way I see the U.S. is it was a bunch of people looking at the current two independent variables, the player, the game board, and seeing this behavior that always seemed to result, which was, coercive power games that led to dictatorships, and said, let's design a different game board, and it'll produce different results. In other words, what I think the U.S. is they built a new system where maybe instead of gravity being down here, maybe gravity is spread around, or just using this thing, or maybe they close some of these loops, or of these things. Maybe they changed the location of this. Whatever they did, They created a set of laws in the Constitution that set up different properties, and that the resulting shape was different. It drove behavior. Behavior is not this independent force. It will react. And so now when you look at the way things are, you say, well, what's been changing about the game board properties to lead to these different shapes that are developing? If society is changing, you have to ask why. It's almost never because the players are changing. It can be because we've learned more, but it's because the game rules have been changed. The game rules imposed by culture, law, whatever it is. So I could go on for 10 hours right now, because this is what I've been doing for 2 years, is just thinking about this and talking to people, and it's really become fascinating. I never thought I was interested in sociology, and now I can't get enough of it. I think it's just this. Once I realized that this was sociology, it became very interesting to me. So I'll leave it there. I don't want to go through everything right now, but I will bring out some new concept in each of these videos, and once the post is up, then we'll figure out what the next thing is that I'll do in the videos. So that's that. Thank you, as always. It's really lame to just keep thanking you for the same thing, and but you're really, really, really patient. It's awesome. It shows a lot of belief in me, which makes me really want to deliver for you guys. So thank you, and have a good February.